economic rise and identifying ways to accelerate inclusive growth and sustainable development. Oxfam's message during the forum will be around the need for Africa's political and business leaders to ensure that Africa's economic revival benefits all Africans. Oxfam is an international confederation of 17 organizations working in approximately 94 countries worldwide to find solutions to poverty. Now, for more on this, we joined in studio by Oxfam's Executive Director, Sipho Mthathi. Sipho, very good morning to you and welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Now, why is the World Economic Forum on Africa so important for Oxfam?
Yeah. I mean, this particular forum takes place at a really exciting time for our continent. On the one hand, 7 of the world's fastest growing economies are in our continent. And that's a positive story. You know, there are indications that our continent is on the rise at one level. But we are also concerned about the fact that the rising seems to be benefiting too few people. Because while the continent today has produced 16 billionaires, 358 Africans are still living in extreme poverty. You know, 66, our continent has 66% young people. There's massive unemployment for those people. And so we feel that it's important that we address the question of how does our continent rise for all?
Poverty, unemployment, inequality, you mentioned all of them. These are some of the issues and the challenges facing the continent. What is your message as Oxfam that you're bringing to WEF?
Yeah. I mean, addressing poverty and inequality is a big agenda, and there are many things that have to be done. But one of the things we see as really low-hanging fruit for political leaders and people in our continent is this issue of money that is leaving the continent illegally through different forms of tax dodging by corporations. There's an estimate that at least $11 billion leaves our continent illegally every year. Now, you know what that money could mean for, access to education, strengthening our government's capacity to deliver, public goods to our people and to grow our, our continent's economies. And so we feel very strongly that there's an opportunity here for our leaders to reclaim resources that belong to African people. For once, it's not about Africa going, with a begging bowl. It's about Africa saying, this is our money, it belongs to our people, and we want it. And so let's reform the tax laws globally that enable that companies can cheat governments, on this.
So you're starting a hashtag, bring back the money, I would presume.
In a way.
President Thabo Mbeki spoke about it as well. He listed outflows out of Africa a couple of weeks ago. But what actions then do you want the world leaders to take when they leave from the conference? Yeah.
I mean, one of our messages for African leaders immediately is that strengthen your tax laws. Make sure that each of our countries are able to close the loopholes that enable these tax dodging practices to happen. But we understand that one country cannot solve this problem because it involves all countries of the world. And we are saying that ahead of the Financing for Development conference in Addis in July, that our governments in this continent have got to come together and go with a strong message calling for a global effort to reform the global tax regime so that it can break this cycle where developing countries benefit while developed countries benefit while our continent suffers, because the money that leaves the continent goes to the north.
Yes.
And so they benefit from this. They must be part of the solution.
Now, besides tax dodging, tell us about Oxfam's new report on how decades of unfair investment practices and trade mispricing has led to billions of dollars also flowing out of the country, out of the continent.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this practice has been ongoing for, as long as, we have existed in terms of particularly in the extractive sector. And that's how you see that the, massive, mineral wealth in our continent, from Nigeria to the DRC to everywhere, has not transformed, the continent, because money is not flowing into the right ways to develop people and countries.
Yeah. Now, the Africans do not benefit from that particular outflows. So what are you proposing that world leaders should do after this conference?
Yeah, we are saying that we really feel strongly that reforming the tax laws and closing the loopholes is critical to this, but also greater transparency in laws that force corporations to declare the profits they are making, so that we can see. We are saying open the books, because we need to see what you're actually making, because many corporations are hiding the profits they make, and then it becomes difficult for governments to say, you need to pay more tax. Yes. Open the books, bring back the money. That's our message.
Now, how can African countries ensure that African agriculture, which is agricultural investments, do not go hand in hand with food insecurity on the continent? Because that's one of the major issues as well.
Yeah. Again, the continent is one of the biggest contributors to feeding the world, and yet, the majority of people starving are in this continent. And we are saying that, we have a big campaign around addressing, the unjust food system, and that's about making sure that small-scale agriculture gets sufficient support, because those are the people producing the majority of food in the world, yet they get the least support, and much of the support is going to, big industrial agricultural farmers, despite them contributing less. And so we are saying, strengthen the support, stronger investment in capital for small-scale farmers, and also address climate change, because those things are linked, and help people adapt to climate change so that they can feed themselves and Africa can continue to feed the world.
Sipho, all the best of luck with the Oxfam conference, not the Oxfam conference, the World Economic Forum in Africa, happening from Wednesday until Friday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us here. Now, that was the Oxfam Executive Director joining us in studio, Sipho Mthathi. We're now going to take a break, and it's off to the sports news with Kendall Makamate.